I must state that we are struggling with an unprecedentedly challenging situation regarding the competitiveness of the European Union, particularly the EU's ability to compete with other regions of the world and other powers. For we can blame ourselves for this situation because we have set various ambitious climate goals that have caused other regions of the world to outpace us. And we are anxiously looking at what will happen in the European area not in 10 years, 15 years, but what will happen in the second half of this year and what will happen in the year 2027. And please, I'm not exaggerating. If I realize how small economies, open economies, like Slovakia are dependent on developed economic countries, like Germany, if we see how it develops economically at the moment, Germany and other great powers, I must express a huge concern about what may happen in Slovakia in the coming months and years. If we are saying that the EU is weak, then it is not only weak from the perspective of competitiveness. We are also weak, dear ladies and gentlemen, because we are not able to have our own sovereign European foreign policy. We are not able to formulate common positions that would unite us. And there are topics that significantly divide us. When I say that we are weak because very few people take the EU seriously. The major powers prefer bilateral negotiations with member states over negotiations with the representatives of the European Union. When I say that we are weak in the European Union, it is also because we lack political leadership. I hope no one gets upset if I use the expression that we appear like a flock of sheep without a shepherd. Therefore, allow me to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that together we have today agreed on a declaration that very clearly outlines the positions of the 3 EU member states that make up the Slavkov format regarding the summit on Thursday and very clearly indicates the priorities that we must address at this summit. I will not go into all the topics covered by this declaration, but I will touch on only one, where I insisted on my colleagues and friends to launch artillery fire towards the European Commission on Thursday. And that is the issue of electricity prices. We cannot compete with the world if we have several times higher electricity prices than we see in China, India, or other regions of the world. We cannot compete with the world if often nonsensical, ambitious climate goals prevail. Therefore, if nothing else, just a single informal conclusion were to be reached on Thursday and that we will commit to reducing electricity prices, then I will consider this informal summit a huge success, with the understanding that formal conclusions will be adopted at the regular summit in March.
Well, it took them an awfully long time, several years, to understand that this is not acceptable. For the smugglers, they basically enticed people to come to Europe, took money for it, promised them a better future, and that did not happen. And then there is a problem. So this is fatal for the industry, and it is enough to address this and protect the European industry against unfair competition. Because if China today has 32 times larger capacities in power plants with coal, and we import 4 million tons of aluminum from China, and here no drone shut down a factory because it was not feasible to withstand. So it's not normal. The European industry won't withstand the competition against Asia, mainly from China, against the United States. Combustion engines, it's unbelievable. I talked about it, of course, with a Bavarian minister-president. Yes, BMW is functioning, but what nonsense is this? Why does Brussels keep coming up with some nonsense? A ban on combustion engines? 2035? And how do we want to compete against electric cars in China? We have no chance. And we, Europe, have invested in combustion engines to reduce consumption, into further investments in environmental protection. And now what? Now the European Commission will again tell us, yeah, maybe out of 10 produced cars, we'll allow 2 with combustion engines. What is this? Why does someone keep dictating to us?
Prime Minister, on Sunday, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is planning to visit Slovakia. What is the purpose of this visit? What topics do you plan to discuss with him? And possibly a question for Prime Minister Andrej Babis and the Chancellor. How do you view this visit? The current crisis between Europe and the United States, also from a security perspective.
Thank you for the question. I can confirm that we have also exchanged certain information from our bilateral activities. I informed my colleagues that on Sunday, the U.S. Secretary of State will visit the Slovak Republic. This will be a continuation of a meeting that I attended with the U.S. President, Mr. Trump, in Florida, which was also attended by the Secretary of State, Mr. Rubio. Plus, there will be the topics of relations between the European Union and the United States that will certainly be on the table. I would like to remind you once again of what I mentioned at the beginning of this press conference, that the European Union as a whole is not taken seriously. The American administration prefers bilateral negotiations. Therefore, I believe that this meeting with the head of American diplomacy will provide us with an opportunity to clarify some positions from the perspective of the European Union, but I will place great emphasis primarily on the bilateral agenda concerning the Slovak Republic and the United States.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.